Have you ever noticed that one of the most powerful learning experiences is explaining a concept to someone else? My name is Jonathan Graves, and I'm here to share with you a peer learning assessment that I developed for my second-year strategic thinking course in economics. In this course, one of the most important learning objectives I have is that my students should be able to apply the concepts from the class to real-world situations. That is, to create models and analyze them in order to understand the implications of strategic behavior. Now, this objective has always been very difficult to assess, and during the pandemic, I grew dissatisfied with the traditional assignments and examinations that I had been using as a means of evaluating this skill. So, motivated by my experiences in office hours with peer learning, I decided to come up with a new assessment. In my peer learning case study project, I asked students to develop a simple model, a case study, of a real-world situation which illustrates one specific concept or idea from the course. They then need to present their model and show how it explains the concept, as if they were teaching it to other students. Finally, they need to develop and solve some questions to help solidify that concept for their audience. Now, I teach at the University of British Columbia, and my classes are fairly large, more than 100 students. So it was necessary that this was a group project. However, I also felt that this was a project where groups were actually a benefit, not a problem. The diversity of perspectives and experiences and ideas actually made the projects done in groups easier, not more difficult. Now, a project like this, which was about 20% of their final grade, required scaffolding, which I developed in several stages. So first, as part of the regular lectures, I routinely use case studies to illustrate concepts. So when I explained the projects to students, I said, hey, this is similar to the way that we explain things in class when we use case studies. This also provided them with some solid examples of what their final product might look like. I then allowed students to form their own groups based on which discussion section they were enrolled in. And their first task as a group was to produce a group charter and a proposal, which they did in a dedicated discussion section. Now, the charter, which I must credit my colleague Marina Adshade for sharing with me, was a short document which outlined the group membership, their responsibilities, communication guidelines, and a dispute resolution procedure in order to help them manage conflicts. It also outlined a schedule for their out-of-class meetings for the remainder of the term and asked them to keep meeting minutes for those meetings. The project proposal was a short description of the concept they wanted to explain and a rough outline of the model that they were going to develop in order to explain it. I then sat down and reviewed all of these proposals and gave students feedback. If some of the elements weren't completed or maybe weren't completely clear, the students were required to revise and resubmit their proposals to fill in the missing details. There were actually very few revisions. As the semester proceeded, the students worked on their projects, and we held 2 additional workshops during their discussion sections. In the first one, the TAs sat down with each group and provided some suggestions and help building their models. In the second support session, the TAs worked on effective presentation and question development skills. We also provided some additional drop-in consulting time for students to get help with their projects over the semester. Now, at the end of term, the students submitted their project along with their meeting minutes, which then I evaluated based on a rubric for how well it met the project requirements. Does it explain the concept clearly? Were the questions and models well analyzed? Was the project presentation well executed? Were the revisions and suggestions that the TA or I gave carried out? I also incorporated a peer review where the students gave feedback on their group mates in order to adjust the grades individually. Now, what were the outcomes? Well, actually quite surprising. I was very worried about doing group projects, particularly online, but I was really blown away by the quality and the creativity of the projects that the students delivered. The best projects were really, truly outstanding, but even the weakest projects were actually well above my expectations going in. For example, I had one project which explained the idea of strategies using pizza topping choice. Another project developed a model of how strategic interactions created battleground states during the 2016 US election. Better than just interesting or creative ideas, the students explained things in ways that I often hadn't thought of or used a perspective that was something that wasn't really natural to me. Student feedback, which I collected using comments and surveys, was also highly positive, with many students highlighting this as being one of the best learning experiences in the course. One student actually specifically said that it was the first group project that they actually really enjoyed at university, which made me very happy. I actually now, with permission, use some of my favorite projects as teaching tools for more recent sections of the course. So yeah, peer learning works. It not only helps students solidify their own understanding, but creates unique and creative ways of assessing difficult learning objectives in a way which we, as instructors, often can't easily replicate. It's one of my favorite reimagined assessments, and I hope it inspires similar projects in your own courses.